Welcome back to another episode of Voices from the Field. We have another Hot Topics podcast for you guys. We got a ton of questions in from you, so we want to be able to answer all of them. So, Carie, I just want to start off with asking you, especially as a former coach, especially at the college level, what do you think about team captains? That's what one person had said, is that team captains are not important and they're overrated. So I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, so there's really two schools of thought, and I think you have to match it to your culture of the team, as if I'm a coach, I'm talking.
Yeah.
So there's two schools of thought where captains are ones who are the connection or the liaison between the coach and the player.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a coach that likes a little more separation or wants a little more team-led driven thing, that might be something good to do. Or the other school of thought is it's given as an award at the end of the year. Who was the captain of the team? And I'm going to be honest with you, I've done it both ways multiple times. I think a big question that we could answer, and I'll ask you at the end, is like, who chooses the captains? Does the coach choose the captains, or does the team choose the captains? I think it's very hard to have captains that are just chosen by the coach, because that's not necessary. Just to have the name of the captain does not mean that's who people on your team are following. So I think you have to have a really good heartbeat of your team. Like, who are my leaders? That's really difficult for a coach that's taking over a team or a program maybe that's been struggling, because you don't know. You know what a leader is supposed to be. So I think the question goes back to, yes, I think captains are great. Yes, I think captains serve a purpose. One, are they the ones that people lead or follow? Excuse me. So you can't just do a little magic wand and say, you are a captain. Like, it just doesn't work like that. And if it did, like, why would they need us as coaches? So I think the thing for me would be more of, I would challenge people that how you choose your captains needs to be based on your team culture and your education. I think the education of what a captain is essential to anything we talk about. You know, like, I think captains can do as much harm as they can good. I can honestly tell you, in most of my coaching, if it was only ever just me picking the captains, I would have been right about 50% of the time. Wow. The other 50% of the time, I would have wanted someone to be a captain and they didn't have the ability to. Because here's the deal, a captain's responsibility, in my opinion, has a lot of weight. It carries a lot of weight. And I don't want to pick somebody who doesn't really like doing that well, and then it affects their play. Like, that's not what's best for the team. So I think one of my favorite movies is Remember the Titans, and its actions reflect leadership, my captain. I think you have to define what kind of captains are there. There's speaking captains, there's action captains. And honestly, in my coaching career, some of my best captains that I can ever think of were my role players. They weren't even ones that were on the field. You know, because a captain isn't just someone who's loud and boisterous and the first one to talk in a meeting. Matter of fact, some of the best captains were the ones who sat back and listened more than they spoke. And people followed their actions as opposed to what was coming out of their mouth. So, yeah, I think captains are important, but I think you don't necessarily have to name them. And I don't think it has anything to do with seniority. Leaders are leaders. Leaders are born. In my opinion, leaders are born. Leaders are not made. Can you help somebody who's not technically a true leader with their skills to get better? Absolutely, especially with the young kids. But it's kind of like someone who's a great pitcher. Pickens at Tennessee, she didn't learn that. God reached down, grabbed her arm and said, you are going to be a stud and throw really hard. Now, she's trained her butt off, so I'm not taking anything off, because she had to learn how to use that skill. But it wasn't like she, in her last 2 years of travel ball, somebody put 10, 15 miles an hour on her. Right. Or she went to Tennessee and she got 10 miles an hour. She might have got 3 or 4, which, I mean, shoot, once she hits 72, who cares after that? Like, okay, whatever. But with that being said, like, I think leaders are born. I don't think leaders are made. I just don't. Like, I don't think you can make a leader. If we don't want to get on this soapbox, but just look at politicians. Great politicians are born. They're not made, because the ones that are made ended up failing. And so we can't ask our players to be something that they're not, and we can't ask our other players follow someone they won't. So I think you have to be really careful with that. That's just my
how did you do it on your team? What'd you say?
How did you do it on your team? Like, how did your teams do it? Did they pick them?
Yeah, we did both. So we had a few years where we didn't pick anybody. It was, like you said, kind of natural.
Right.
people who just started leading and people that had good relationships with our coach. So they had good communication. And then we also did a year or two where we did captains. And from experience, those were the biggest culture years, like the biggest issues in culture were the years that we had captains. So I don't know. I think that, like you said, I love that you mentioned, like the heartbeat of the team, and it depends on the culture of that team. It takes me back to last week when we talked to Sue Inquist, and she said something that I listened to it not only when she said it the first time, but then also editing it. And it just stuck with me. She was like, if you want to know the culture of a program, like go ask the team, don't ask the coach. Because, a lot of people in recruiting is like, oh, we got such a good culture going, whatever. And I think Sue was like, well, how do you know? That's not something really for you to say. That's the team. That's not the coach.
Right.
So I love that. And that just, so if you haven't listened to that episode, go make sure to go listen to it. It is amazing.
Absolutely.
But
I think
it
that's
kind of brings me back to that. Yeah. It's like, it's that culture. Does your team need that? I know for the team that I was on, I don't think we necessarily needed the captains. Like, I think we were doing really well with how our flow was going. And I think that kind of disrupted it. And I think that's when it kind of started causing issues. Obviously it was well-intentioned. I think it was supposed to do something really great. It just didn't work. That just wasn't our culture. So I love that. And you've hit so many things. See, vocal leadership versus action. You've hit so many things that we're going to hit on. So I'm very excited to start.
And I'll tell you, one of the most interesting years of my coaching career, I came back out of retirement again to go back to the University of West Alabama. And one of the things that I felt like was, how do I even get to know who these kids are? I had a very high junior, senior. So it wasn't like they were young and buy-ins. And obviously the 3 to 5 that I brought in were freshmen were pretty good. And we're going to knock some of those people off the field. And I'm a new coach. Talk about disrupting culture right off the bat, right?
Yeah.
One of the things, and I wish I could tell you who told me to do this, or maybe it was something I read, but I took the whole fall and in the first week of practice explained to them that being a captain was going to be an application. You had to apply. You had to tell me why you wanted to be a captain, what you thought the significance of being a captain is. What were you willing to put before yourself as a captain? And then out of those applications, I asked for at minimum 2 to 3 out of each class to apply, but they didn't have to. I asked for 2 to 3 out of each class to apply, because what a freshman thinks a captain is, a freshman could just think a captain is I'm really homesick and I'm melting down and I'm going to quit. It's someone that comes to my dorm room and talks me off the ledge. Right. That's not a captain. That's a teammate. You know what I mean? But so I asked for the different classes to do it. I can't, I'm so old. I can't remember who or how many in each class, but I had multiple in each class. And we used the fall of where I met with those who had applied. And we talked about, what does a leader look like? Why is it hard? Who do you go to? And as we're going to do this. And so my whole thought process is I wanted it to come down to where I had one in each class. So we were going to call them captains, but it was almost more like a class representative. Yeah. And then we literally met once a week for 30 minutes for coffee and just said, hey, what are the issues with the team? And it gave them the ability as players, to say, coach, we're tired. Like, we're exhausted. I'm thinking, we got to fix this first and third. We play, UAH on Saturday. And they're like, I'm exhausted. And it's not just me, everyone on the team. And so it was like, all right, we're taking today off. And we'd go right from their day off, get yourself caught up. So it allowed me to have a better pulse on my team. Yeah. And what was really cool, the way we finished that, and I got kind of off topic. So we finished that by whoever applied at the end of the fall before they went home for Christmas break, which is the most crucial, scariest time as a coach to send everybody home. Here you've worked on this and done all this and got to pray to God they go do everything they're supposed to, or that nothing happens and stuff like that. Right. They team voted. From the applications. Yes. And they voted for one in each class because it was something that they observed through the fall. Right. And then from our meetings as captains, I asked them to hold team meetings to say, hey, coach is asking this. How do you guys feel about it? This is what we're talking about. Are we on topic? Are we not? And so what was really cool is when you voted for the 4 that you wanted, because it just went like a little, and it was all private behind closed doors. No one knew who voted for who or anything like that. They literally got 2 casted votes for the people that were in their class. So your class got to represent, so you got to have a little more control over it. Right. Which makes sense. Other ones in the other class, your vote only counted for 1.
Right.
So it was really, really interesting. And I think probably the most successful. If I think back about the 25 odd years of the way we did it, now maybe it was just because it transformed the culture of that team. But I would challenge any coach, any player, when you're looking at anything like this, like, don't just get locked in. This is the way we do it. This is the way we've always done it, and there is no right or wrong answer. If you as a coach know your team, you're going to know which way is the best, whether you vote, they vote, you pick, they pick, win some, and sometimes I think in this younger generation, the connotation of captain, they just instantaneously push back as, oh, they think they're better than.
Yes.
So it's almost like if you rename it, like, so then when we didn't call them captains, we called them class representatives.
Right.
They were
Exactly.
class representatives. So it was almost like a regional board that met with coaches, and it was pretty cool. And so I think what was cool is it really empowered 4 on the team, which it allowed the freshmen and sophomores to feel like they had juniors and seniors to go to.
Yeah.
And it had the juniors and seniors to feel like they had 2 people they could really lean into to get the attention of the rest in their class.
And you're growing those freshmen and sophomores.
It's
so
hard.
They don't get to senior year and they've never led before. It kind of gives them that experience.
Exactly.
I love that. And I love that you made them apply. I love that.
Yeah, they had to apply. Like, in it,
they want to do it. Like, I love
made it like some of our forms much longer than it needed to be. But if they were willing to take that time out,
if they
put it into it, it meant something to them.
Right. Because I know with experience too, like sometimes the best players on the team, like not that they're not leaders, but they may have just don't want to do it. You know what I mean? Like I know some people that I played with, whether it was travel ball, high school ball, college ball, like some of the best players, like some of them, not that they, like I said, I gotta say it carefully. Like, I'm not saying they don't want to lead, but some people just want to do their own thing and they don't want it. They don't want no part of it. They're like, I just want to go on the field, ball out and go home. Like, I don't want that. So then you have those kids get voted on and then they're leaders and they don't even want to be leaders. So I love that.
And here's one of the things that I would challenge people, and there's so many of them out there you can do. They're probably selling them now for that matter. But I think it's really cool to have people, your players, know what their personality type is.
Yes.
Because that dictates a lot of, if I'm a type A or a type B.
Yeah.
I'm going to respond differently to different things. And it doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just different. And I think it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see that. And, the biggest thing is, and to me, you become a family as a team, but sometimes you don't get real deep into who your family is. Like, and sometimes you don't know, like, so I can say that too. But what I mean is, like, some of the silliest little things that I've ever done in my coaching with the team bonding and stuff like that was some of the most impactful things that we ever did, as opposed to practicing. Like, I can't remember who told me about this one thing, but like I said, nothing that I do is original. I steal it from everybody, but I need to get better about referencing my sources, I guess. We did one is I've got your back. And what was amazing was to have each kid go and write one word that person represented to them.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it couldn't be a physical attribute. It had to be something that they were bringing to the team. That was huge. And then another one that was really, really intense, probably one of the most intense like team meetings that I've ever been in, is we literally gave everybody a piece of paper and said 3 things that you don't know about me, but they couldn't put their name on it. They just wrote it down.
Wow. I like that.
And so they turned it in, and they would and 1 or 2 are silly, and I asked for at least 1 to be deep. Like, it can be fun and cute, like, you streaked across campus, whatever you want to say it is. But I want 1 to be something that you haven't really told many people.
That's good.
Like, to really reveal yourself. Now, obviously, you got to be careful with that because you don't know what kind of can of worms up. But
some people might take it too serious.
I didn't. I just said, I want 1 to be one of your innermost secrets that you're willing to be. I want you vulnerable. I want you vulnerable with your team.
Family. Yeah.
Because if you do that, then you're willing to go to battle for somebody a little bit more intensely, even when they're on your last nerve, because you know something pretty deep about that person.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you what was amazing is how deep they were. And all I did is I'd open it up and I said, okay, this person. And the one of the things I think about it was amazing was, and this is an intense topic, but one was, the thing, it was like, my father used to beat me.
Oh my gosh.
We're best friends now. So that's like here you go off the edge and then you come full back and you're like, and then it was, and I was raped in high school. And it's like, Holy schmolies. Thank God that was not the first one that I opened up, because I was
I know, you
like
would have been like, oh my gosh.
thinking maybe I should have had more rules with it.
Yeah.
But and what was amazing is people just kind of sat there. But when some of the other ones were like, I went streaking across campus as a
Right.
freshman,
Something funny.
and I took my brother's car and parked it, and just silly little
Right.
things.
Yeah.
The game is you had to try to figure out who it was.
Yeah.
And some of the really deep ones weren't. And a lot of them was, no one knows, but my parents are going through a divorce.
Right. Yeah. Stuff like
Things like that.
Yeah.
Or, just whatever it was. And there was a couple of like, I don't know if I want to play softball anymore.
Wow.
So there was some deep ones. But what was amazing is by the end of the night, we went through it. I think we did it for like an hour and a half, and it was intense. But literally everybody claimed their sheet and said, this is me.
So
This is me. And that was what I was wanting. And I just put them in the middle, and I'm like, all right, so obviously we know we got a lot of crazy people on this team. Obviously we know we've had a lot of heartache on this team. Obviously we know we have a lot of humor on this team. If you're willing to reveal who you are and what you've just shared, go grab your sheet.
Wow.
And so there wasn't one, and it wasn't like one went, then they all went and got their sheet and said, I was the one that was raped in high school. I'm the one that my parents are going through a divorce.
Yeah.
I'm the one that got caught cheating on a test. Like just everything. And I can tell you literally we walked into that room as one team and we left it. We left a different team.
Yeah.
And I think the hard part for most of our members and our clients is, one, you're either at a high school that the high school, your coaches and teachers are limited by stupid lawyers, and there's only certain things that they can talk about or share that stuff. And realistically, from a time standpoint, it's just different than doing it in college. Then you go to your travel, and it's such an intense, thrown together time. You really don't have a ton of time to develop that culture. So some of those things could be quick and short, but you could blow a team up before you even started by doing that. You don't have the time as far as that.
And they're younger.
But I guess with as much as we do the Zooms and meetings like this, that's probably how I would do it with my club teams. And that's how I did do it with my last club team. Like we would meet once a month or close to that. Maybe not always like that. I'm probably bragging by saying that, but close to that, so that we would get to know them. And I just think it's huge, because I think the more you know your teammates as a captain or a player, as a person,
100%,
it's totally different. And like I say, I go back to my favorite movie, Remember the Titans. And you think about what those men went through during that time. That's a level of intensity probably none of us can understand.
Right.
Just by the day and age and and look what came out of it. I mean, I think the sports world can transform the world.
Yeah.
Because it's such an eclectic group. You can check every box, and I think it's a way to really change. And when I say the world, your world, the world in which you're living in, I'm not saying like it's going to create world peace, although that's what the Olympics used to do. It doesn't necessarily do it that much anymore, but that's what the Olympics used to do. So I guess that's kind of a different tangent, but I think those are really important stories to share when you're talking about those, of what worked and what didn't work.
Yeah. And I think with girls too, like you hear it all the time of like, you get a group of girls together. There's going to be things that go on, drama, bickering back and forth. But I think that the most successful teams I've been a part of, and people that I've heard have been a part of, like, you don't have to be best friends with everybody. Like, you don't have to have all 10, 11, 12, 20 girl, whatever many on the team. You don't have to be best friends and hang out with them every night, but it's that level of like, okay, I only see you at practice and at games, but like, I know you have my back. Like, I know that like my back's against the wall, you're fighting for me. And like, that's all you need. And I think some people sometimes can get caught and like, we all have to be best friends and be close and all that. You don't have to be. Like, you're not going to be. Like, maybe 5 people on the team if you're lucky that you're like really good friends with, but the other ones, like, you just gotta have that level of trust of like, hey, I know that even though we may not be best friends off the field, like, we step on that field and like you'll kill for me. Like, that's essentially what has to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
With women. So on to our next topic. I know we went a long time on that, but I love it. Okay. That was great.
Go vote on the polls. Go to the polls.
Go vote on the polls. Yes, we have questions about being a good teammate on there, as well as just role players, things like that. So make sure you go check out our website and go to the polls tab for that. So,
and I think what I want to say to that, I'm so sorry.
No,
what
you're
I'd like
fine.
to say to that is, I think what I want our audience to know, whether it's our podcast audience or our extra inning softball subscribers, like, your opinion matters and your voice matters.
Yes.
And we're really trying to create a platform to give to you guys to basically open it up. And, very soon down the road, we have an ambassador program that's going on that's got 57 young girls in it that are just absolutely tremendous in the work that they're doing and the way they're embracing that they're competing right now to see who's going to be on the podcast. And we'd love to hear, what do you want to hear from parents? I mean, I think there's just so many things that I just wish everybody had a site to go to say, hey, this is a one-stop shop. I can get my drills from the drill zone. I can talk and look at a commit crew kid that's going to a Power 5. I can hear college coach recruiting tips. I can do everything, not just the recognitions of the awards. That's all well and fun and nice and good. And I get it. It's exciting to be able to post those things, but like a source, a source to be able to go to. I always think about it like I hate doctors. And don't take that wrong. I don't mean that. I just never go. I have to be dying to go to the doctor. I don't want to. I don't take medicine. I just let's just go. God's going to fix it. And when I say that, but I have a book that's home remedies.
Right.
This is going all the time. I can go in and look at. That's what I want this to become. The podcast, the voices from the field. I want the recognition. We want to showcase all this stuff, but we want to know what all the coaches out there are doing. Because literally, when you stop learning as a coach, you need to retire. Mm-hmm. When you stop growing as a parent, you need them to be in college and just be there every now and then. So I think that's the big thing. I want players learning. Everything is about learning and education. And, our game is wonderful. It's like the American diet. If you don't like it, wait 10 months and a new thing's coming out. A new gimmick, a new app, a new way to choose captains, all that stuff. So it's really just about all of us sharing ideas.
Yeah, I love it. I don't know where you come up with all those sayings. Every day, I swear you say something different. I'm like, where do you even think about that? I love it.
I'm old.
So on that topic of polls, everything, and we got some questions about this, the hot topics about this, and it's a part of a poll question. So it goes along great. So the concept, the idea behind daddy ball. I know we hear that a lot. Elders playing daddy ball. Daddy's playing his baby girl because she's not the best player, but she's playing because it's his daughter. So what are your thoughts? Because I mean, I know you've coached your daughter and now you're not coaching your daughter. Obviously, it's a little bit different being the mom and having played and coached in college. You have a little bit more experience than the average dad. But daddy ball versus neutral coaching. Do you think that daddy ball, or I guess mommy ball, you can consider it as well? I was going
to say, I think there's as much mommy ball now as there.
Yes.
I think we call it parent ball.
Parent ball.
That's really what it should be. I mean,
do you think it affects the team dynamic? Do you think it's helpful for your kid? Helpful for your kid? What do you, just give me your thoughts on that.
Oh boy, I have a lot of friends out there, so I have to think about this. Okay. Yes, I definitely think it affects it. The largest effect that I think it is it has destroyed city ball because there's way too many travel ball teams that shouldn't be paying the money and traveling across the country and doing all the things because they've got 2 or 3 good players. Right. And the reason they have 2 or 3 good players is they left a really good team that they weren't playing maybe the position they wanted, or there was another daddy ball thing involved in it. There's all these different things that go. So they break and make their own team. Mm-hmm. Well, there's only so many elite level, I don't even think you can call elite level 10U, but really good 10-year-olds in an area.
Yeah.
And I wish there was some way to say, okay, we have in this area the ability to field 5 good 10U teams. Let's make them good. We have, and those are the A level. And then 5 Bs and 5 Cs, because I think Sue Enquist said it the best is, we do it by age group. It's 10U, 12U, 14U. But there's a lot of kids that or 13 that should be playing at the 10U level. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just skill level. And I mean, I always go back to Michael Jordan. Somebody cut him in high school. How would you like to be that coach? I'd go, I got to move to New Zealand. I got to get out of here. No one can know who I am. I cut him. Yeah. So that's proof in the pudding that it doesn't mean that the person's not going to develop. So it's no shame to them. Yeah. The daddy ball, I think is a problem, but I don't even daddy, mommy ball, parent ball, whatever we want to call it. I almost feel like there's 2 things to that. You either have that where a kid who's not where they need to be and they're going to bat leadoff. They're going to play whatever position they want. They're never held accountable. That's the kind of things it is. And then there's other people that get labeled as daddy ball because their kid's the best kid on the team.
Right.
And, that's just because it's their kid. There's a jealousy factor in there that their kid is, you know what I mean? So, I mean, for me, when I was coaching and I coached my daughter, I don't know, from the time she was 6, because she was playing 10U at that time, I always used her as an example because I always knew that at the end of the day, she and I had time to really talk about it. We'd always talk about before practice, like, don't take things so personal if I get on you, because I might be getting on you for somebody else to hear it. And you can tell the whole team, she's always so hard. I don't care what you say about me. I'm willing to be my daughter's protector or issue at any point in time the way she wants to use me.
Right.
And in all honesty, like, I held her to a much higher level, but that was such an easy way for me not to get labeled as mommy ball or anything like that. Because the parents knew, like, I was going to chew her butt as hard, if not harder than anybody else's. So they really didn't say anything when I got on their kids.
Right.
So I think that's, yes, I definitely think it's an issue, but I think there's multiple issues. I think it's, I mean, I guess somebody could have said that I did mommy ball with Macy because she hit my lead off or my 4-hole most of the time, and she played most of the time, but it wasn't because I guess you'd have to take a poll. I don't feel like it was because I was doing mommy balls. She earned it. Like, put in that time. Yeah. But it'd be easy for people to say that was. Mm-hmm. So I think there's sometimes that label, it gets tossed around too easy.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, there's like when you go to a tournament and you watch a team play and they're average or below average, and the kid that's in the leadoff spot has struck out 10 times, not even put the ball in play, and they're never taken out of that leadoff role. Right. I think you got to lay, and it's the daughter of. So I think that's when people are rightly in that. And look, here's the bottom line. Parents, all parents, I'm a parent. All parents see our kids through rose-colored glasses and think they're better than what they are. I have worked really hard that I never had a dad like that. My dad was always like, you're not where you need to be. Like, always, nope. Like, probably to the opposite extreme, like, because girls are pleasers. Like, I was like, well, what do I have to do to win that?
I always got that you're not good enough. You'll never be good enough.
Yeah. And as I got older, I value that so much because it taught me a work ethic, like, to never be satisfied, know? And like, Macy laughs at me. She's like, I think it's terrible that you smile when I fail. And I'm like, I love when you fail, because I know you're growing as a human being. Like, I don't want to, I said, Macy, how much do you grow when you hit a bomb and you jog around the field?
True.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's fun for the moment. I'll celebrate it for a moment. And she's gotten really good at, and most of the kids that I've coached and stuff have gotten really good. I want you to celebrate that. Like, that's fun. Yeah. But I want you to celebrate your failures too. Like, what a different world it would be for our kids. And I know, I've coached and have worked at a facility. I'm giving a lot of lessons now. I'm just amazed at watching parents at these lessons. Like, it just amazes me. You're paying somebody an obscene amount of money, and then you're giving instruction over the shoulder of the person you're paying. They want the success so much for their kids that you can watch them. They're leaning in and they're like, and I'm thinking, man, that's got to be exhausting. Like, like, that's the one thing, like, I can give so much credit to my husband. Like, he just sits and kind of watches. Like, half the time, are you even awake? Like, but I think the daddy ball, mommy ball, yes, it can be an issue, but I think it's an issue on both sides. People label it and it's not. And then people are splitting up teams and going, like, there's a team around in this area that, was like light years. They were, it's so funny to say light years at 10U, but light years. They were beating 12Us. They beat a couple of 14 and they'd play with the big ball. Like, they were just legitimate jocks. Like, they were getting ready to 12U. And obviously it was 3. And then you could even put in daddy ball. How many coaches in the dugouts? Too many, but we don't even have to go to that point.
Yeah, we could talk about that.
They had 3 daddies in there and the 3 moms. And in my opinion, if they'd all done a personality test, that would have worked better, because it was all type A's. You can't have that. Like, you need a good Indian and a bad Indian. You need a good communicator. You need people to fill all these different roles. Right. Well, 2 weren't happy at the end of the season. So those 2 left, started another team. So it split that team up into 2. Always a battle head to hell. The 2 that went together, guess what? At the end of that next season, they weren't happy. So it split up and made 3 teams, 1 team. And now they're lucky to compete anywhere they go. Yeah. And I'm like, what a shame that is for that team.
Yeah, for that team.
Little Mississippi could have gone in 4 years and competed on a national level and maybe won a PGF from Mississippi.
Yeah, right.
Like, it can't even be possible.
Right.
But it is. You know what I mean? And so, I don't know. I don't like it. I think it's easy to be labeled. Yes, I think it's a problem, but I think it goes back to what Sue said. I wish we spend more time in the development of players than we worried about where they were playing, when they played. I don't know.
Yeah.
That would be my sense.
Yeah. And I like that too. I think, again, I think we always come back to this consensus. So I'm sure it's like, of course, again, but I think it just comes down to the situation and the parent and the player. Like, obviously someone like you or someone who played the game, coached the game in college or at a higher level, like, I don't blame you for coaching me. Like, I wouldn't want anyone else coaching your daughter than you, considering the experience you have. I think it just comes down to, as a parent, like, you got to step back and what's best for your kid. Like, I think that's easier said than done. Like, I'll give my dad, I think the world of him. I give him a lot of credit. Like, he played college football. Like, he was a athletic guy and was into sports, but I turned 10 and he was like, I don't know enough about softball to properly give you what you need. So I'm going to go hire, because he had a team at the time. I'm going to go hire 2 former softball players and they're going to coach you. And I'll sit back and I'll, and I think, like, he could have easily, he's competitive. He's done the college sports thing. He could have easily been like, oh, I can do it. Like, I'm going to coach her. But he realized, he's like, I don't have what she needs. Like, I don't have that development piece to it because I don't know the game. Like, who knows the game better than someone who's played it? So I think it really just comes down to knowing what your kid needs and kind of knowing what you can provide. But I mean, obviously I'm not a parent yet, so it's easy for me to say, but.
Well, I'm a mom now for the first time with Macy.
Yeah.
I sit on the outside. I'll forever be her coach. Like,
right.
I think a mother is a coach. I think a father is a life coach. It's so cool for me to be on the outside and truly just sit and enjoy watching her. Mm-hmm. And, one of the gals that's one of the coaches on her team, she's like, you 2 have a different language. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, I watch the 2 of you, like, look, and she'll do something to you and you kind of do it back without even saying anything. And she's like, and you're communicating. I'm like, well, that has to do with, number one, she's my daughter. I carried her for 9 months before anyone knew her. But the second thing has to do is, we played and I spent those years just investing and chirping in her ears. Like, my husband dies and laughs. Like, I'll sit there and I'm like, she's going to steal home. And he's like, what? And I'm like, she's stealing home. I can see it in her. And she'll steal.
That. That's so
she'll steal home. And he looks at me and he's like, how'd you know? And I'm like, I know her body language. I could see what she was watching. I think that's, if I can give my daughter any, and I'm bragging on her now, she'll probably be mad at me. But if I could give her one thing that I think is, I love the way she thinks the game. Yeah. And you got to remember, like, she was in the dugout at 3 years old, hearing me say, keep your hands inside the ball, your feet, pitch movement, all those things and it's the same thing with my son. My son did the same. I coached his baseball team. And it was always so funny for me to hear them talk the game. Like, my son at Arkansas, I think he was 8 and he was sitting next to me and in the dugout, and the kid comes in from the at bat and she's like, I cannot feel what I'm doing. He's like, you've got to get your hands inside the ball. And I was like, my God. And she looks at him and she looks at me and I was like, that's what I was going to say. And she was like, and I looked at him and he's like, well, how many times have I heard her say that to you? And I'm like, stop. And then he was like, I'm like, yeah, but how'd you know on that one? He's like, well, look what the ball did. Yeah. And I was like, okay, so
like, this is my fault.
Part that I love, and that's the part that I wish all players got more of.
Right.
Because it's it that college coaches are looking for. Yeah. There's a lot of people who can catch and throw and pitch and hit and run and do all those different things, but it's the it. Like, they're looking for that it. What separates? There are a lot of players that we see that are not as good as somebody else, but they're better players. Why? Yeah. It's it. It's the intangibles. It's the things that you can't coach. It's being born a leader, all of those different things, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that.
I'm going to just tell you, I know you can edit this. I told him we're not going to be there till 10:15, so we can do whatever we want.
Well, we have, so which one do you want to do? We could do, should the best players always play? Does seniority matter? What every great coach wants in a player, lead by example versus vocal leadership, or do stacked teams have better chemistry, or do they struggle with ego? So any of those, which one do you want to answer?
So many of those can all be tied together.
Okay, so
you choose one and then I'll choose one and we'll end it.
Okay, so kind of on the topic, you mentioned that, not always the best player has it. When you have someone that may not be as talented, they have that factor. So I want to ask you this question because I think that it comes up a lot when it comes with culture and building a good team behind you and all those things. Do you think the best, most talented players should always play? do you think that that's the only factor that should go into that starting 9 is their stats and if they're the most talented?
Okay. So I'm going to be able to answer yes to all of the above. Yes, 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 and yes. Yes, they should always play if it dictates whether my mortgage is being paid.
Well, right. Yeah, that's true. Depending on level. Right.
So if I'm thinking that way, like if my sole purpose in coaching is to win,
yeah,
they got to play. I don't care what they are. And that can be discussed. Like people are like, well, no, especially in the recruiting process, you want someone that's going to develop you. Yeah, you want all of those things. And I want that when I was at a Power 4 coaching, but I want that off the field. On the field, if I ever wrote my lineup based on the kids I liked the best, I'd probably been 0-40. That's just the bottom line. You know what I mean? So yeah, I do think at certain levels, the best kids play.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let me flip this on people that are sitting there going, oh, that's not true. Does it mean like they have a terrible attitude or they threw like something? No, you discipline them the same. I'm not saying that, but should they always play when they're doing everything they're supposed to be? Absolutely. And what I would say is if we are developing a team, what's the best for that kid sometimes is to not play, is to see it on the other side, to see what it looks like. So yes, I think your job is to win. And I think people that go, oh, you don't just always play your best. Well, if I'm going in for surgery, I don't want just somebody that needs some experience to do my surgery. Like, I want the best. So I think if you keep things in the way, I always wanted to coach and I always wanted to be the person that dealt with it the way life was going to deal with you.
Yeah.
It's how life works.
Right.
It's supposed to be how life works. We've lived in such a crazy world for the last, I don't know, and I'm really dating myself, but it's so crazy, like right is wrong and wrong is right and all. It's so upside down. But I always wanted to coach and wanted my players to deal with life. Now, if I'm in a travel organization of young kids, like I'm about the development.
Right.
And I'm going to want my best player on the field most of the time, but I'm going to put her in different places to develop her because who am I to say at 10 or 12, what's her position going to be?
Yeah.
And,
true.
Like I always used to say to my kid, my daughter or my son is like, when you go and try out for a team or you show up to a new school and the coach says, hey, Max, what position do you play? Anywhere you need me, coach. Then like I'd say, if you're confident enough and coach, you need me.
Yeah.
It's just that easy. You don't have to necessarily say it out loud, but anywhere you need me. Like, your goal is to be on that field. Your goal is to be able to play every position. Like, how much more marketable are you going to be?
Yeah.
And I always want my kid, and I always wanted my players to where my best player goes down at the SEC tournament. I can turn and I have 5 other options to put in there.
Right.
Because they've been there. They've done that.
Yeah.
They've developed. That starts at an early age.
Yeah.
I love it when people say, I'm a shortstop. Well, if you're a shortstop, you can play third, second, first, outfield, probably even catch. Mm-hmm. The only thing you probably can't do is pitch. So what you should say is, I do anything but pitch.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that is it. Now, I think it really determines I have a different way of defining your best players because I think there are best bunters. There are best contact hitters. There are best long ball hitters. There are best people that just don't strike out. There are best closers and pitching. There are better starters. Mm-hmm. There's catchers who can't hit but are just a wall behind the plate. And then there's catchers who you're praying to God that they field 900 but they hit 25 bombs for you.
Yeah, they're good at different things.
It's the ability. And I think when you have your players understand is I need you to be great at 2 or 3 things. Mm-hmm. What are the 2 or 3 things you're going to be great at?
Right.
That's why we call it a team. And it goes to what we're talking about is like roles, team roles. Yeah. You okay with that? Like, I don't know. So I don't know if that really answers that question.
Yeah.
Of how it goes. And I think I could swing this into a topic for you. Like as a younger former player, like what did you feel about with seniority? Like there are places that people go, well, she's a senior and you just have to wait.
Right.
I love to piggyback that off of what we just talked about because those two go hand in hand.
Yeah. Seniority is hard because I don't think someone should just play because they're a senior. I don't think that. I think that at the end of the day, if you have, because you see all the time these freshmen that have breakout years. You look at Taylor Shoemake.
I don't know how
Taylor from that Florida freshman. Yeah, you have that Florida freshman who she's hitting 400, has 50 RBIs, whatever. Like, she shouldn't not play just because there's a senior that, it should play because they're a senior. So I think that, and I'm also, I guess it's the same thing with you. College versus travel ball versus high school is different as well. On the college level, I think it's fair game to anybody. I think that seniors, like if you have a Hannah Gamble, go watch the episode if you haven't, we interviewed Hannah Gamble, but she played her freshman, sophomore year, had ridiculous stats, like just ridiculous. And then I think she kind of hit a little bit her junior, maybe senior year. She didn't hit as well as she did. I think she should get more chances than maybe a freshman who hasn't played. I think that's where it kind of gets a push and pull of like, I think, if she goes 0 for 5, 0 for 6, she shouldn't get pulled immediately like maybe you would a freshman. Like, she should get a little bit more leniency, in my opinion, on that from what she's done in the past. So I think that's like where the seniority, in my opinion, lies. And then with high school's tough. I think it depends on where you're located, because there's a lot of really competitive high schools that at the same time, like, I think if you're a senior and you don't play competitive travel ball and you don't work as hard as a freshman who's coming in that plays competitive ball, like, I think that a senior shouldn't just play because she's a senior. And again, kind of with you, I don't know if I have a yes or no answer to that. I don't think that it should be an automatic black or white. You're a senior player. Hey, there's some coaches out there that are the opposite, where they're like, oh, I want fresh blood. I don't want to play a senior because they're graduating next year, so I want to invest in a freshman. I think it can go I've seen it go other ways. I've seen it be the absolute opposite, where they only want to invest in the freshman, sophomore class because they're like, oh, junior, seniors, like, they're about to be out of here anyways. I think that it's got to be up to who's playing the best.
Yeah.
But
so
I'm going
to add this to it. So this was always my philosophy that I always discussed with my teams. When you come in and you're a freshman and sophomore, we're going to be investing in you like crazy as coaches because we're training you. We're bringing you in the culture of our program, of our expectations. We obviously saw something in you. We're polishing you. We're grinding down that diamond. By the time you're a junior, you need to be giving back to the program.
I love
that.
And
if you're not, then one of the two of us made a mistake. I made a recruiting mistake or you didn't work hard enough.
Right.
So now that doesn't mean like you have to be producing all the time at the plate, but that freshman, sophomore year at the college level, and I even think at the high school level, is your total investment. It's your maybe an arm around the neck when they've done something stupid for the third time around, like for a real tough little hug, as opposed to you do that as a junior, better. I'm going to crawl you right now.
Right.
Like, and then if they know that you're investing, and it doesn't mean I'm not coaching you as a junior and senior, but there's got to be coming equal amount back from you as a junior and senior as I'm giving, or I am going to invest in the younger ones and say, I'm going to build for the future, because my philosophy is as a freshman and sophomore, we should be dumping like crazy. And by the time you're a junior or senior, you need to be giving back to the program, however that is, from leadership to hustle to, just the little things, the intangibles. I'm not talking from you have to have a home run or you have to do those different things. And I think there's so much more to it. Like, people will say seniority or coach favorites and stuff, and yet they're never at practice. Like, they're only judging that from a game.
Right. Exactly.
I can't tell you how many times I'd look at a parent and listen to them, not in college because I didn't deal with parents in college, but in like that high school, and they'd say something and I'm like, so were you at practice the last 4 days?
Right. Exactly.
When your daughter booted 25 balls, pouted about it. I had to crawl her about it. Matter of fact, she had to run because of her attitude.
Right.
Did you know any of that?
Exactly.
And they kind of looked at me and I was like, so what would you do in your work atmosphere? Would you stay with that person? So realistically, if you actually were there and you knew that, you would be celebrating that she's on the bench right now to give her a wake-up call in life to say, what, it's not about you. Yeah. It's about the team. What's best for the team. So I think that's a really important thing that people don't do. And what I love about the softball field is it's a pressure cooker. It builds, it destroys, it challenges, it does all that kind of stuff. And yet at the end of the day, none of it matters.
Literally.
None of it matters. Like, none of it matters other than the lesson that those young women that you're dealing with take for life.
Right.
Like, I can remember my dad saying this to me, and knock on wood, wherever it's at, I've always taken and always tried to talk to my players about is, he says, I want you to learn the never give up, the never to accept what somebody says to you or defines you as, like, all those things with you. And he's like, because at the end of the day, God forbid you go in with your son or daughter to the doctor's office and the doctor says, well, they've got cancer. There's nothing you can do. He goes, I want you to have these life lessons to look at them and go, thank you for your opinion. Walk out and go find a way to fix it or die trying.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, he goes, because if you think anything you're doing now matters, you're going to learn when it really matters and what those lessons were for. So if you could foreshadow looking forward, just tell these people, you know, like I see these teenagers that have cancer and I'm thinking, here we are worried about why you're not hitting a home run, Macy.
Right. Exactly.
Like these kind of things. And so I think it's all about perspective and everything we're talking about. It's all about perspective and what really matters.
Yeah.
And, you know, I talk about it at the end of the day. The only thing that really matters is use it as your platform to share Jesus and to be where grow where he's planting your feet.
Right.
Wherever it is, be present in the moment and grow where he's planting your feet. And that's hard to do in athletics.
In the moment too.
Yeah, it's really hard. But I think if you constantly talk about it with your child or you're constantly talking about it with your team, it gets so much easier. Grow, you know, because at the end of the day, everybody is going to judge you on, did you get a hit or not? They judge you about the outcome. Like when I watch kids go, I was 3 for 3. And I was like, I was at that game and every one of them was a little duck fart Texas leaguer that fell in.
Right.
And 2 of them weren't hits, but your mom keeps the scorebook. You weren't 3 for 3. You know, and then the kid that was hitting right behind him's dad's berating them as they're walking out the thing. And they hit 3 piss rods right at center field. And all of them were, and they're like, I didn't do very good. I was 0 for 3. And I'm like, you know, I mean, Macy and I always laugh when she hits those piss rods and someone catches it. I'm like, that's okay. Because the softball gods give you a little Texas leaguer that evens those out.
Exactly.
It's always
all those.
A little belly mark. It's always evened out.
Right.
You know? So I think if we weren't in everything, whether it's coaches, parents, or players, not so outcome driven and more about the process. Like, what is the process? Kind of like what Sue said. What are you doing to get through it to raise your level as opposed to what was the outcome? Because God forbid if like the real world in doctors or anything like that was just outcome and not process, winning takes care of itself. Take care of the process. Yeah. Playing at college level, if you take care of the process, is going to happen for you. Like it's going to happen. And then if you're just so worried about the outcome, you're going to miss the day-to-day investment in what you're doing as a coach, player, or parent.
Well, and even that, like when you focus on the outcome, like you said, it doesn't matter. So like if you, and I mean, I got caught up in doing this a few times in my career. Like if you focus on going 0 for 4 or whatever, when you get out of college, like nobody's going to ask you like, remember when you played this game? What was your stats for that? But they're going to ask you like, what did you learn from softball? Like what's your favorite memory from softball? Like so I think that's what's so hard. And it's easy to say now that when you're done with it, because in the moment you want to go 4 for 4, you want to hit 25 bombs, but that's not at the end of the day. When you tell people you played softball, they're not going to ask like, what was your stats? What was your batting average? They're going to ask you like, oh, like what was your favorite part about it? What'd you learn? Who's your favorite teammate? You know, that kind of stuff.
Well, and I think what's really cool, and we keep referencing Sue. So if you haven't listened to that podcast,
she's amazing.
Like I'm 57. She beat me 3 times in the College World Series, and I'll listen to it over and over and over and over again. So many golden nuggets in there. But I think that the thing that comes out when I think about all of those things in it is like, what are you focused on? And what is your why of what you're doing it? You know, that daily investment and improvement in what you're doing makes it fun. If softball was easy, everyone would do it. That's why most daddies and mommies, if we could do it, need to stay on the outside as opposed to the inside. And then, you know, the neutral coaches, you got to be careful with that because you got to be involved as a parent. Like, I'm not just turning over my kid at 10, 11, 12, you to a neutral coach to go do it all. Like,
right, exactly.
You know, and I think there's nobody better to teach their children how to play.
Mm-hmm.
Not softball.
Yes.
How to play. There is a game in everything you do every day of life. Mm-hmm. Like Macy and I and my son and I, like we laugh about it. Like our family is so competitive. We'll compete to see who gets their shoes on faster. And we won't even say anything. We'll just both be like putting our shoes on and then it's like, go on, let's faster. So, I mean, I just think it's the way you look at life. And if you're filled from the inside based on the investment that you're doing, it makes things so easy. Like it just makes things easy.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Like I said, it's a platform. Grow where your feet are planted. Use it for a way to get ahead in life. And, the thing that Sue pointed out, because she talks to Fortune 500 companies all the time, the job market is getting competitive in everything you're doing. And yeah, you can go just get a job, but like you want the job. When there's, let's just say, I don't know, we'll say like the head coach of Team USA. You want that job. There's 400 applicants for it. And the first one, and that's not, coaching's not a good thing. So let's just say the CEO of Maybelline, we're a girls company, so of the makeup company, and there's 400 people applying for it. The very first people they pull out, and this is really important for parents and kids to know, are all the athletes. All the ones that have college ball, whatever it was on there, followed by everything else, they're going after those people because they've been tested. I'm sure they take out the military people too. Like they've been tested. They've learned life lessons. They know what it means to be a part of a team. They know what it means to fail. They know all those different things. So if out of 400, there's 40 college athletes, your odds are better at getting that job, because you've seen something through completion. So I think that's really important. And I think we could talk forever. The beauty of it is our podcast. We have a lot of new, exciting guests coming up here in the future. Yes. One of our next most recent will be Joe Walker, who owns The Loft, and he's a mental training expert, deals with teens all the time. I can't wait to hear that, because I just think there's so many new ways of seeing things and skills to learn. Like as parents, the more we can teach our kids mental acuity. Yes. I'm working on another gentleman, I can't say names until we get him, but is all about softball IQ and teaches it. And from a technical standpoint, grid thing, becoming a really big thing within the collegiate level. I think it's just some really cool stuff that we're looking at getting. So anyways,
so excited.
It's been great this morning. Yep. And we'll be back soon, and make sure you're sending in any topics or comments or anything. If there's any of you out there, we are looking for mamas that played in college that have daughters, because Mother's Day is coming up, and it's coming up quickly. We'd love to do a round table discussion with lots of mamas who played or are coaching with their kids, having their kid right next to them. Because I think it'd be really cool to hear questions bantered and say, moms take, daughters take, moms take, daughters take, to kind of share that. Yeah. So if anybody, make sure they're reaching out to us, and we'll put some stuff on social media. But super excited. Go get your friends to follow us on the podcast and take control of it.
Absolutely.
And our sponsors, Chris Caldwell.
Yes, thank you, Ms.
Edward Jones. Super, super excited about her 27 Foundation.
27 Fast Pitch Foundation. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And it's
27 really, Fast Pitch Foundation.
There you go. 27 Fast Pitch Foundation. Woo. A mouthful, but I know in talking to her that they're going to have enough money raised to sponsor 5 young women to play this summer at high level ball that wouldn't have been able to do it, because everybody knows our sport's not cheap. So if you want to donate to that, feel free to reach out to us. We are partnering with her. We're going to do some stuff at a tournament up in St. Louis this summer, but lots of good things. Southern Goat is doing a ton of stuff with us as far as batting gloves, looking at trying to get them to donate like a $300 or $400 glove to be able to personalize. I'll have to bring Macy's. She's actually got a catching glove because her name is Macy Moo. And I asked her for her 16th birthday to develop a catching glove that's a cow. And so,
my gosh, that's
got the milk cow print on the outside, and the whole web is like a pink udder. So here's the glove.
I am obsessed with that. Stop.
So it's like the udder on the inside, and he does anything. And like what's cool,
I love that
the most. So I don't know if you can see it. It'll be backwards.
I'm obsessed.
Her number is 30. And so she's like, I don't want to put my name on it. I said, put Heifer 30. So she's got Heifer because we have cattle. So it's cute. And
that is amazing.
On that side, it says get dirty, just a lot of fun stuff. So he does some amazing things. I'm super excited to be working with him. And he is like, he does bag mom's purses out of things like that. Ballpark stuff. So if you don't know the goat, go meet the goat, and we'll do that stuff too.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening in. Make sure to follow us on our podcast, and we will see you next week.
Awesome.